to in a weird location, I guess. And there are specifics. Worst case scenario, they even least. Yeah, true. Very true. Yeah, Beloit and Tomahawk, and then what was this one? But Beloit and Tomahawk, we don't have panels for yet. Well, I'll be tracking everybody down tomorrow morning immediately. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and that sounds good to me. Well, and I know the woman that I talked with Jackson Hewitt, or this intern that we're dealing with, she said that, well, have you ever installed them with health permits? And I said, yeah. I said, but you know, it's kind of one of those things where you do it and you ask for forgiveness and hope it happens. They said, otherwise, you know, you can be faced with penalties. And she goes, Jackson Hewitt and us will take responsibility for anything that happens.
Call, please.
Chair Bussey.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Mr. Dorschel.
Here.
Mr. Ganzer.
Here.
Mr. Stein.
Here.
Mr. Humber.
Here.
Mr. Kugel is excused.
Item number 3, approval of minutes from December 14th, 2015. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Edits, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, minutes are approved. Appearances, is there anyone here who wishes to appear on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. A public hearing on request by Mary Lou Reinwan, Rosy Cheeks and Company for approval of a zoning permit for a change in use for a salon and retail clothing store at 6045 Monona Drive. You bet, you're up. Welcome. Hi. Did you want to say anything, or?
No, I think I pretty much
Okay.
covered it last time, so
All right.
just here to see if it's gonna go.
All right, sounds good. With that, we'll close the public hearing. If you want to stay there in case there's questions, we'll move on to 5B, which is consideration of action on the request. Sonia?
This was last reviewed on December 14th in a pre-hearing conference, and it's a zoning permit for a change in use to allow a salon and retail store at this location. Approval is recommended as outlined in the staff report, including that any future substantial exterior alterations or signage requests return to Plan Commission for approval.
Thank you. Commission members, comments, edits? Or comments, edits? Mr. Humberg, I
Just
should
one
say.
question, I wasn't here last time. That vacant lot to your south, that's part of what you're purchasing?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make, because that's where a lot of the parking's on that lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of the parking is partially built onto that vacant
Oh,
lot.
well, could be. I don't know that, but.
It is, I just
yeah.
want to make sure. And then personally, I'd just like to welcome you back to the Monona area.
Thanks.
My daughter went to your store for a lot of years.
I know.
It's sad to see you go west, and I'm thrilled you're back in the area.
We had to build up that clientele to get them to come back east,
There
so,
we go, we need more of that.
yeah. Hopefully, they will.
Any other comments, edits? Is there a motion?
Move approval of conditions as recommended by staff.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome back home.
Thanks.
Move on to 5C, public hearing on request by Madan Shrestha Swad Indian Restaurant for approval of a zoning permit for an expansion of use to expand the existing restaurant at 6007A Monona Drive to the adjacent space at 6007B Monona Drive and add seating to 8 additional tables. Good evening. Welcome.
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Good evening
You-
and namaste for everybody. So we are really excited to expand the Swad Indian restaurant. Just 8 table and 30 to 32 chairs. And I got the letter today from next building, Chain Asian Kitchen building. But I really appreciate their letter as well. The thing is that he didn't mention their building in separate property, and they have 2 different parking spot, 2 different building. I don't know, he didn't mention in here. I'm not happy with him, one thing, because their building has a 3 tenant. One is the top, they have apartment, there's 2-bedroom apartment they have, and the basement level, there's one country financial services is there too. I don't know how they manage their parking spot in there, because recently they opened. And then I have seen few times since they opened the restaurant, their customer parking in front of my building, my door, and I say hi, and they go other side and Asian Kitchen. So what I gonna do with that? So I have no answer about that, because the customer come my place as well. My customer go to your place to carry out a dining as well. I don't have that big complaint about these things. So pretty much we are busy on the weekend night. So weekend night, pet clinic, 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, they are gone. I already mentioned when I submitted in first time, this letter, I already mentioned how many parking spot, because before I draw these things, I monitor it about a week. So how many parking lot going to be empty, and then that is the reason how we decided to expand the room. The reason is the best reason is I'm really curious about the expanding room because my customer want to have more privacy. Some people want to have meeting, so they don't want to have a big hall, and that is the reason. So
Okay.
that is the main reason I would like to get them little more privacy, and then separated little dining area. So 1,000 square foot. Another thing is my buffet place and sitting room is pretty much closed. So I just want to do a little wider. That's why I'm going to move my buffet to new expansion area. So that means people get more comfortable. That's my way.
Thank you.
So that's sorry.
No, you
Shane
go right
Asian
ahead.
Kitchen has their own building. I don't know. In their spot. So I don't know how they manage. Maybe that's the reason this is wanted to stop these things. I don't know. It's two separate. Another thing, have a sign. Each parking lot they have a sign already. If my customer come over their parking lot, they definitely see the parking spot, the sign. Parking only for the Asian region. It has written already in their parking spot.
Mhm.
So
All right. Well, thank you. If you want to stay there in case there's any questions, we'll close the public hearing, move on to 5D, which is consideration of action on the request. Sonia?
So the letter, Jamie Zhang and Jing Tong Wu at 6001 Monona Drive requested, they were unable to attend the meeting. So I'm going to read this that they submitted. As former and current restaurant business owners, we are happy to hear that SWAT Indian Restaurant is doing well and Mr. Shrestha is planning to expand the current space to accommodate for larger parties and/or private meetings. At the same time, we are also concerned about SWAT's expansion due to the fact that there seems to be insufficient parking for 4 tenants, with 3 being restaurants, Pet Clinic, SWAT Indian Restaurant, La Rosita Market offering a full-service kitchen and dine-in seating, and Jing's Asian Kitchen. With that said, we have just recently opened up Jing's Asian Kitchen on December 9th, 2015 for a soft opening. The building that we are currently leasing borders the strip mall that Pet Clinic, SWAT, and La Rosita Market resides and also shares a connected parking lot. Within these last 3 to 4 weeks, many of our customers have brought it to our attention about not having parking spots available for them, especially Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. They would tell us that because we had no available parking, they would have to park as far as the Senior Citizen Community Center neighborhood to walk over. Interestingly, we would have very little number of customers in our restaurant, not enough to have all of our parking stalls filled. After much observation, the parking issue has gotten worse, causing some of our customers to drive away on our should-be busiest days. We have taken the initiative to talk to our landlord, Gary Achenbach, along with all 3 of us speaking with the management of La Rosita, who resides right next to us, regarding this parking issue. Even after a period of 3 to 4 weeks after opening, especially on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, we would have to revert to car patrolling our designated parking stalls, in which we currently pay monthly CAM fees for, to ensure our customers have parking for them. As our customer base continues to grow, the parking issue will become worse. Jing's Asian Kitchen has 3 designated employee parking stalls in the back of our building. Unless La Rosita and SWAD can find a more efficient way for their employee parking in front, which is currently taking up their customer parking, causing their customers to park in our customers' parking, we are not in favor of SWAD expanding. To ensure the City of Monona continues to have a successful, diverse selection of restaurants, the Monona Plan Commission must ensure that each restaurant has sufficient parking, especially when it comes to shared parking spaces.
Thank you. Anything else, Sonia?
My report is that this was last reviewed again on December 14th, 2015. It's a zoning permit application that's required for an expansion of the use. Approval is recommended with finding the fact that a shared parking agreement for the tenants in the shopping center in which SWAT is located is documented. with conditions of approval that all required alcohol licenses and building permits be obtained. And the Plan Commission can discuss the parking issue further and ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, questions, comments?
I would move that parking agreement down to conditions of approval. I mean, we need to get, I think you're correct, it wasn't clear, and I had to go by there to remind myself that these are separate buildings. But that almost makes it more of a problem for me. If the letter is correct, yours and the other two businesses are parking on private property, if you will. And your chart here says there's, during these busy times, that the Asian Kitchen is referencing, the least amount of spaces you ever found available was 11, right? On Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays is always at least, as you put it, available regular spaces for new use. And so if you have 11 regular spaces available for new use, and currently Asian Kitchen is saying people from those three businesses are parking on their property, I think it'd be irresponsible for us to approve this without getting to the bottom of that.
So are you looking for more information?
Well, I think what is indicated here under finding of fact is that there is a documented agreement, but not just between your three businesses, but the Asian Kitchen as well.
I'll clarify that the shared parking agreement already is in place and documented for the tenants that share the building that SWAT is located in. There's not a shared parking agreement in place between the two properties.
Then it would seem to me that we'd need to ask for something between the two landlords, or the two owners, the two owners of the building. But I'm just very uncomfortable approving this with this kind of floating out there. I mean, for us just to blow it off, I think seems a little irresponsible.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Mr. Onberg?
Yeah, I disagree with that a little bit. Well, number one, I think his letter is accurate when he says there's not enough parking there for all four tenants, but the one tenant he refers to is himself, and he doesn't have parking privileges on the main property. And the main property has 46 stalls. His property has too few stalls. That's always been our issue there. When Rosario's, it was an issue. They're always fighting on parking. We had a larger restaurant that wanted to go in there. Remember, we cautioned them that this place just can't handle a lot of parking. There's, as they mentioned, there's 3 tenants in that one little building with very few stalls. And I've actually been up there quite a bit. It happens to be one of my wife's favorite restaurants. What's happening, I think, is his overflow is coming that way, from what I see. It's not the other way. And if we stopped every zoning permit because a couple neighbors don't agree on parking, we would have a lot of trouble up on Monona Drive. What we need to look at is this property. And I think part of his letter is accurate, too. I think if you get your employees to park further from your building, instead of having them park in the far stalls, have them park far and down to the south, get them away from your building, it opens up more stalls. Because I've been there at night and I watch, and if the parking's full right in front of your building, there's a lot of parking open in front of the, on the south, but if there's a couple stalls on the other side, it's a closer walk. So people go over there and they go in his parking. And so this is one of those things where neighbors have to be neighbors and try to work it out. But from what I've seen there, the Asian Kitchen parking overflows into you much more often than you overflow
I know.
into them.
Last time, one of the lady and gentleman, they were pretty much old age, and then the snow day, and I asked them, "Are you gonna park here?" Yes, they said yes, and so I asked them, "There is a plenty parking lot in the Asian Kitchen." They said there is a parking lot is slippery. That's why I don't want to park there. I said, "Okay, no problem." And they parked in front of my business, and they went to Asian Kitchen. So.
The parking for Asian Kitchen is an issue. There's no doubt. And we knew that when we talked to them extensively about that and the issues they're going to have with parking. I believe the applicant with those uses there with 46 stalls, we'd be thrilled to have that in a lot of other areas on Monona Drive to put this type of use in there. And actually quite happy that you're successful enough that you want to expand. I would caution you that you try to keep your employees away from the front of your building, not even up by Monona Drive, and you'll help soften some of that.
South side of building.
South of the lot, yeah,
Yeah.
way down where they're closed by the pet store or whatever, veterinarian.
Pet clinic.
Yeah. And if they park down there, that leaves more parking for your people. The Asian Kitchen's going to overflow into you, and your customers are sometimes going to go over there and park, and that's the fact. That happens between neighbors.
I do understand.
I would
Yeah.
suggest the two of you just talk about it and try to, be good neighbors instead of get into a parking war. I've seen up and down Monona Drive, when we, Rubens, they were in parking wars. We came in, we had to give them zoning approvals because they're putting in curbs and bumper blocks to keep each other from parking, and we require connectivity when we rebuilt Monona Drive for safety, but when you require connectivity between lots, there will always be this in play like that. I'm very comfortable that 46 stalls handles the uses that is in those 3 uses in that one building. I'm not very comfortable that the 15 or whatever they have in the other building handles those 3 uses. And we did that knowing that we had to put something in that building, and it was a relatively low traffic generator when the Asian Kitchen went in, and we said, oh, this is a lot better, because if you remember, they stood here and said most people come for carryout. They come, they get their carryout, they pick it up, and they leave. And that's what we were told when we granted the zoning permit, because we cautioned on the parking for that one thing. Now, I didn't know there's 2 people from the apartments. We were told 1. I agree with your comment, Dale, very strongly that the finding of fact says there's a shared parking agreement. I think it's also a condition of approval that shared parking agreement remain in effect, because we're granting a approval for this use based on the fact that there is one. So a finding of fact doesn't say it stays there. We put it in as a condition also so that it is in place, otherwise the zoning approval would be void.
Actually, Sonia just clarified that is not between the buildings.
No, but it's between the tenants.
Correct.
So it's still important, because you can't have those 46 stalls if there's not a shared parking agreement between the
Oh,
tenants.
absolutely. And I agree with everything you're saying, except I don't understand what the problem with getting the 2 building owners together and making the approval of this contingent on those buildings getting together and bringing to staff a resolution to this, that all their tenants are okay with.
Well,
Because I'm just uncomfortable completely blowing this off, and I'm surprised that I would be surprised that in 4 weeks' time, any of us on commission would have been able to make observations as to who's flowing in to whose parking lot. And so I have to give some credence to someone who we approved a business a month ago, they opened, and they're expressing this being a problem. I've never been in there. I've been in the SWAT many times and love it, by the way. And also I'm glad that you're doing well, but I'm just very uncomfortable just blowing it off and saying, well, this can't be a problem. This new business owner is inaccurate. So I'm just asking, is there any reason why we can't put a condition in there that staff communicates with the 2 building owners?
I think a request for staff to communicate with the 2 buildings owners is different than a condition. I'm not sure we have the legal authority to tell them that they have to come into a parking agreement with their neighbor if we feel they have adequate parking on their site.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have adequate parking, then we have the authority, but like I said, I believe 46 stalls for the uses that are here is adequate, is much better than what we have next door at the Asian restaurant. And I think I have been on that site enough times over the years that I know which way that parking is flowing. We fought this issue since Ross Rosario's was there. There's always been an issue with parking overflow. It's just a tough thing on that corner with not enough parking, and as the applicant said, some of those stalls are pretty steep. They're not good parking in the wintertime.
Other commission members, feedback? Griff, any comments?
Well, with a lot of these older properties, parking is an issue because there just is limited space. I guess I feel that basically our basic inquiry has to be to this particular property and whether the 46 stalls are sufficient for those 3 businesses. I recognize that Asian Kitchen, or what is it,
Mm-hmm.
may have a problem, and that's my feeling too. That the problem really is in that property more than in these properties. I guess I would be reluctant to condition the approval of this tenant's proposal on whether or not the owners can reach any agreement. I certainly would be pleased if they attempted to do so, but I'd be reluctant to try and condition it on that.
Thank you. Rob, any comments?
Well, I think you make a good point when you talk about having the appropriate number of parking spaces for those 3 businesses based on what's in that building. But, I mean, I don't want to disregard, concerns over crossover parking with the Asian kitchen. But I don't know putting the brakes on an expansion which has sufficient parking for that building should happen based on a dispute between adjacent tenants. So ideally, I'd have a solution for that crossover parking. I think communication between tenants is the best solution there, because we did approve Asian Kitchen, and we deemed it enough parking. Whether it's always been a problem there, we decided as a commission that it was. So hopefully that can be worked out internally. But if the parking for that property, for that space, is sufficient with that shared parking agreement between those 3 tenants, I don't see a problem with it.
Alder Holmquist?
I agree that the parking for this establishment is sufficient. Sonia, do you remember offhand how many seats are in the Asian kitchen?
I don't remember.
But I mean, the ordinance in which it's written for 3 seats for 1 stall, or 1 stall for 3 seats, seems sufficient, given the appendix in this application. And I know the 3 businesses over there, the indication was the apartment upstairs were for the owners that were also employees, and the basement area was being turned into an office space or somehow incorporated into the business for the main business. So although there are 3 potential folks within that building, their presentation to make sure that their parking was sufficient had reasoning that was based on that. So I agree that your parking is sufficient. Thanks.
Further discussion? Is there a motion?
Move approval, conditions and finding of fact as recommended by staff, and add condition 3 that the shared parking agreement needs to remain in effect.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Mr. Humberg?
As you can see, the parking's a contentious issue, and we would really, really, really like it if you could, just talk to your neighbor and get some good mojo going there, and, realize that 2 restaurant uses just bring business to one another. So it would be great if the 2 of you can talk about it. He hopefully can park his people away from the main customer area, and you can, do whatever you can do to work that out with your neighbors. Because good relations between the 2 of you will do nothing but help both of you.
And then we, the landlords are going to add 3 more parking spots outside the building. You see the dumpster area,
Really.
corner of the building. 3. I request to him build the 3 parking spot for our staff. So
Well, he'll be seeing you then.
there is the south side. There is a big space, and the Salon G building area.
In the back?
Not.
Because there's not much room between the 2 buildings.
I think
On
there.
the south side, there's a drainage flume that goes between your building and theirs. There's no room
No.
there for parking.
It's called south, or which side? This one, down.
North would be towards Frost Woods,
I think the dumpster area. There's a
in the back.
in the back.
Mhm.
Not like a building back. It's just the right inside the building.
Inside the building. Well, the new dumpster where you turn around and go underneath the patio?
The dumpster go a little other side, little bit back. There is a
Interesting.
space in there.
So expansion of the parking lot's not on the agenda tonight, but you and I can talk.
Well,
I mean, like,
during
they,
normal
You're
hours.
talking about your place, you're talking about Asian restaurant? or
no,
you're
no,
talking about
Asian
yours?
side, no, not Asian side, our place.
Oh, your place,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I was trying to figure out
No.
where the Asian restaurant was going to do that. I've got you, okay, my bad.
Yeah, our place, because the building, the other side, the dumpster area, there's a pretty much white. So
Okay.
they add the 3 more and
Yeah, I
we
know
get
where
the
you're at.
more
There's
plenty space.
Some room there, so that'd be great, tell them to check with Sonia, you need to get a permit for that.
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congrats. And I would encourage that whole group, for all the business owners to operators, to make sure that their staff, employees, to, as far away as possible, to leave whatever you can close for the customers would be great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on to new business, 6A. Consideration of action on sign permit requested by Jackson Hewitt Tax Service for a special exception to the colors required by the Southtown 2 signage plan, represented by Finishing Touch Signs. Good evening.
Hi,
Hi. Yeah, just name and,
my name is Tara Teske, and I'm the executive buyer and also the permitting expert, I guess, there.
okay. And did you want to, anything to present to the commission, or are you just available for questions?
Just that when we got kind of subcontracted from a different company to install these signs, we're not the manufacturer or anything, but the signs from Jackson Hewitt, they're according to their brand standards. So like there's bigger companies out there like Jackson Hewitt that have to have particular colors. They have a particular scheme, a particular tagline and logo, and this just happens to be on a property that only allows certain signage color, and they like want a face color of a number 2283 red. Well, Jackson Hewitt's is like a sky blue, and then they also want a trim cap of blue, which their trim cap I believe is white. So I'm just specifically asking that we can possibly get a variance to install this sign with their brand standard colors.
Okay. Thank you. Sonia?
Just background on the site, this is the Southtown 2 building, which is located in the Southtown Mall area. It faces the Shopko and Hobby Lobby building, and is one of the outlots there. It's separate from the Radio Shack building. It's in between the Radio Shack building and the main Southtown Mall building. A signage plan was approved for the building in, 1983, and it requires red faces with the interstate standard blue trim cap, with 24-inch letters on the Southtown Mall elevation and 12-inch letters facing Broadway. In 1996, there was a revision to this signage plan that allowed for one major tenant, as proposed for Subway, to use its corporate colors for their sign. So Subway does use the yellow and white corporate colors. The Plan Commission may grant special exceptions when the applicant demonstrates due cause. And let's see, I've described a little bit of background on precedent for the signage plan at the main Southtown Mall building, with Hobby Lobby using its orange corporate colors, Planet Fitness using yellow and purple, and Hockey Giant using blue and white. And if the Plan Commission does determine that the application can be approved, there are 2 recommended findings of fact.
Thank you. Commission members? I guess,
Sounds fine.
pardon?
Sounds fine. Exception's been made.
I would agree.
Well, some of the exceptions that were made were based on size, because those are some major, the square footage of those other tenants was not the same as I mean, this is what, how large of an area is this that, the retail space? The other, I just went on,
Probably a couple thousand square feet, as they're looking at it.
I was saying, this sign itself, it's only going to have
The
18.
office space that they're
Okay.
occupying.
yeah, I just, went on trusty old Google and, there's some Jackson Hewitt, white with red. There's an ad where they're using the white with red.
And in that, I do have to say, actually, this is a new thing that just took over. We are actually redoing 8 locations right now for them. They're doing a total of 421 stores in the state of Wisconsin based on this new brand standard because they're updating and revising their logo.
So I appreciate your representing the retailer, but shouldn't the owner of Southtown be requesting the variance to his signage plan?
The landlord did sign off on the application and authorized the representative.
Would it be, if they submitted a new plan, would that, I mean, is it the intent that the signage plan for the facility that they own is going to be different going forward? I mean, we've had this before, and it's frustrating. And the owner signs a document saying, this is my plan, and then everybody wants their corporate colors, and then there's this parade of folks that come through that want it changed. I would think it would be more appropriate for the owner of the Southtown too to come in and say, I'm revising my plan, and to get our blessing on it, and then we eliminate applicants like this having to come before us. My 2 cents.
I wanted to add something. This is not the drawing of the Southtown 2 building where this sign would go. Is that correct?
Which drawing?
The one in our packet.
The only drawing we have is in fact not a drawing of the sign you're applying for.
The one I have is next to Pro Nails and Cash, is it Cash Advance? This is the renderings I got from the company that hired us. I physically have not been on site.
We don't have that
We
one.
do not have that.
That's the one I have and the one that I sent in with the permit.
It's different again. Looks like the tax service is in a box sign on this one.
Yeah, it's channel lit letters. They're not,
But no, the tax service, is that a box sign or is that channel lit?
what tax service?
Underneath the name.
That.
That's a box sign.
Yeah,
It-
it looks like channel lit on ours, and on this one you just handed, it looks like a box sign.
I don't know where you got that one from.
Because I was gonna
This was
suggest.
submitted with the variance application.
Oh, that's just part of their brand standards on kind of what they kind of look like. They have a couple different variations of the channel lit letters based off of the square footage, and
We got 2 signs.
Because
the,
when-
the second one is not going to happen. Sonia and I are already discussing that.
The reason I bring that up is the one concern I did have when I looked at the spot is, and I was looking at this configuration, so I was confused. But the space is so small, is just to make sure that Jackson Hewitt is not encroaching on the signs on either side of them, because it is not a very
Overhead, is
big
that-
space.
It'd be
And
good,
that's when
but-
I realized that this is not. in
Could you
fact-
put on the overhead, please, back in the camera room?
You need to rip that apart, go for it.
Can I?
Yeah,
Thank you. I saw me ripping mine apart
I got
already.
plenty more staples in my desk.
I'm slow.
So they're actually not even 24-inch letters, which is the max according to the requirements that are there. They're only 18-inch letters. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be overcrowded crowding the other ones around it, because the other ones, it does seem to be that they are 24 inches tall.
Looking at it, it's too small. The Jackson Hewitt. It's the tax services that makes it all scrunched up there together, but it's not to scale, I don't think. Or it doesn't fit the scale as well as it could.
Are you comfortable with the box sign rather than individual letters? No? Rod?
I prefer individual letters.
Okay.
Always looks better.
What did the sign, what did their, were they supposed to be individual backlit letters for this development, or were they to be box signs or a combination?
I'm just looking at the specifications from the plan, and it says letter style per tenant selection.
Well, Sonia's checking on that. Any other, Mr. Romberg, did you?
Well, I agree with you. If we do this, we throw out the sign code for this building, which we haven't done yet. I think it would be nice to have an application packet that actually shows what we're moving on. It'd be nice to have drawings and dimensions and pictures. We have them now on that, but I think we weren't even given the information we should have reviewed when we went and looked at the site.
So,
I think it looks out of place in there. The commission has changed in the last few years and going more towards putting more color and corporate branding on there. If that's the direction of the commission, that's fine. But I agree with you. It should be a motion or an action that's taken with the owner and with realizing what we're doing, that every one of them can have whatever color. I think the box sign itself is something we don't have on any of the other ones except for Subway for their logo. I think it looks too small. I just think we were not given enough information to even make a good decision tonight, but we have a lot of questions that we could get back to the applicant.
I kept staring at the
All uppercase, so I'm not even sure if they know exactly what it is they want.
so any other comments? Or do we want to possibly table this to allow the applicant to get us questions or answers to questions? Griff?
I guess I'm more concerned about the form of the sign and whether it's black letters than I am about in terms of the color. We've made a couple of exceptions already to Southtown, and it doesn't, given the difficulty they've had in renting the various premises, it doesn't bother me to allow some more variation, but I'd like to see a better application as well.
Alder Holmquist?
Although there have been some variations, I think they're part of an anchor tenant for this particular building, is the way I read that. And proportionality, that would be the bigger concern. I would welcome the owner of the building to submit a science package that opens this up, so we don't have to keep doing this.
Okay.
That, by far, for anybody else listening that has a building with a science package, start putting something new together, because this is going to happen over and over again. Everybody's trying to rebrand.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to make that be their new kind of way of concern of.
Mr. Ganser?
I think the scale is uncomfortable and the box sign is problematic as far as I mentioned before. encourage the color changes, and also would be very uncomfortable, saying this business is justified in having their brand colors up there and this business is not. I don't think that's something we can be doing. So if we make an exception, then we continue to make the exceptions, but aesthetically, it is out of scale, and so that's where my concerns lie. So I would not be in favor of this particular design.
So do we have a motion, or do we want to table, or what would the commission like to do?
Well, we don't want to, why don't we table it and give them a chance just to put something together and come back? There's some good feedback. I think you've heard a lot. Color looks like colors aren't as much an issue as proportionality, and getting the owner just to come in and say, hey, we want to change the signage package for this building so that staff can handle it in the future, and unless something comes in that does look out of proportion.
One last comment.
Yep.
I'm not sure if this is a concern for this particular sign, but the tax service, if we are considering that a tagline or a description, that's come up on some previous signs, but maybe that was only in addition to landscape signs. But I think some of the other renditions of just the name without the tax services could be one potential way of getting the scale and proportionality. And
So get rid of the box on the bottom of the tape.
I think it would solve the
Okay.
box issue as well as help with the
Proportionality.
proportionality.
Okay.
Something to consider.
Your letters could be 24s.
Yeah,
Big
and I did mention that, and they said that it wouldn't be, they couldn't stretch the top out to be 24 inches and then have that cabinet on the bottom, and I'm like, okay, I said, I'll go there and try, like, I can't, I'm just a middleman.
Okay, so I'm going to take Mr. Homburg's comments as a motion to table.
Move the table.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? See you in a couple of weeks.
Yay. I love back to Wausau.
Next time have them
Drive careful.
when we get it.
Oh.
Nice hotel in town.
Yes. Way to promote.
All right, move to 6B, consideration of action on sign permit requested by James Andrews, property owner, and Alvin Huddleston, AV Graphics, Arts, and Signs, for a landscape ground sign for a building 6203 Monona Drive. Applicant here. Come on up.
118 pages.
Yeah, go ahead. Good evening.
How are you today?
Good.
Alvin Huddleston, AH Graphic Arts and Signs.
Did you want to review a little bit with us, or are you just available for questions?
Well,
or-
I would like for you to take a look at the drawings, and then if you have any questions, you could, have me answer them for you.
All right.
Describe it if you, right here, it's up on the screen, if you want to point to it.
Oh, I do have a larger version here.
It
that
probably won't,
We won't fit in there?
well, if you want to see both drawings,
Oh,
they're
okay.
right in there right now.
Oh,
If you point to it and talk about it like normal,
sure.
it'll show up on the screen.
Okay, it's a double-sided ground sign. As you can read the information or description of it, it's going to be 5 feet high, which I guess is the maximum. Originally, we was going to make it 6 feet high, but was told that it could only be 5 feet. There's other signs on the avenue that is pretty similar to those. Some of them is much larger. But the way this one is set up in the grassy area, as you can see where it indicated where the sign goes, it shows that it's going to be set back there 13 feet, but I've changed it where it's going to be set back 15 feet, which is required. It's a non-illuminated, and the colors is all specified as you see. The landlord agreed to have it done. You can see where it's some.
All right. Comments from Sonia?
This new landscape ground sign, so plan commission approval is required, and I had 3 main comments. One, The plans show 13 feet, so condition of approval is required that 15-foot setback from the curb, along with verifying the location prior to the sign being installed by city staff. Two, the landscaping needs to be planted when the sign goes in or when weather's permitting, so I have listed by May 2016. The landscaping on the printout was not legible. I had the ability to zoom in on it on my computer, so I listed in there that the applicant is proposing daylilies and spirea around the base of the sign. And then the last comment for Plan Commission discussion is that the Legacy Martial Arts logo is apparently very difficult to read, and question whether that's consistent with one of the evaluation factors of the code for legibility and visual clarity, and if there are any opportunities to make revisions to that portion of the site.
Thank you. Commission members? Comments? Mr. Ganser?
Is the location on the property?
Yes. Well, it's in
Is
the
that
city.
entire island on the property of 6203 Monona Drive?
That is probably still in the right of way. We have that expanded right of way till we get up to Frostwoods Road.
Okay.
So I would guess that that's in the right of way that we allow the businesses to occupy. But as far as the businesses, when you go in that driveway, you turn right, you go to this building, you turn left, you go to a different building.
Right. Just suggested that maybe 2/3 of that island was onto the property next door, but I didn't consider that either.
I think it's, we have, do you remember, so I think it's 120 foot right away there? Do we not? I should know this better than anyone. I know I studied it for 15 years, but I know all that first row of parking, Dale, is in a good portion of it, if I could point to it. A good portion of these vehicles are in the right of way.
Yeah.
And when you line up 15 feet, it's that front curve, so depending on this sign probably extends about halfway back from the vehicle. So I would say it's
Sure.
pretty high probability that this entire sign is still in the right of way.
Yeah.
Dale, was your concern that the driveway in is actually on the property to the south of this property? And
Yeah, I'm
rear-
talking about the east-west boundary. I mean, it appears to me, and I do not understand the easement issues, so I'm not speaking to that, but it appears that this island, the majority of it, belongs to the property to the south. All right, so if the sign was going in the middle of it, it appeared to me that the sign may end up on the property to the south and not on the property of this building. That's all. And, you know, I don't know what else to say. I don't believe plywood to be a permanent sign medium. And I mean, I just struggle with someone that's gonna put painted plywood sign out as a permanent sign on Monona Drive. As opposed to investing in sign materials that are of a little more permanent nature.
Well, yeah, this sign basically is basically set on the edge of the building, and then to the left or the south of that is Fat Jack's. So it do not cross over into
Okay.
the other island, which is occupied by Fat Jack's. It's basically a standalone by itself, closer to the edge of the building that all these tenants there occupy.
Okay.
I don't think
that
so.
doesn't make sense.
I agree with Dale's observation. This, they probably seal coated to their property lines. The
That's
property-
exactly what I'm basing
The
it
property
on,
line
Chris.
probably goes right through here, and these parking stalls are probably Fat Jack's, and where the sign's going, I think you're probably right, it would be on the extended property line of Fat Jack's, it would be in front of Fat Jack's. If you extended the property, then I think the difference is going to be right-of-way probably comes back to in here, but otherwise, this sign here would be south of where that seal coating is, and I would bet they know where their property line is. I think that's a good observation.
So how does the property line issue intersect with the easement issue?
Well, it's actually in the easement, it's an excellent question and terrific observation. When we closed driveway cuts and consolidated parking lots on Monona Drive, we had island on that side and an island on that side, and there is a conduit stubbed in here. You probably saw it when you went by for a landscape ground side with right, it doesn't line up on their property line extended, but it would be in the right of way. And so part of what we did is we tried to have areas where businesses could combine and put some signage in.
And that Jax would probably have no objection to it, but the question is, should it be addressed?
Yeah, I think it's a great observation, and what we should do if we decide to take an action is to ask staff to confirm that it is indeed in the right of way and not on private property that doesn't belong to the applicant. I think that's astute. As far as the sign material, what is your sign material? What?
It's made out of a laminated aluminum, so it's not considered plywood.
So it's not plywood, it's a
No,
laminated
it's an
aluminum.
aluminum facing, which is called Dibond material, which is we're using now. Yeah, like a Dibond, yeah.
Does that change your feeling at all?
I don't believe Dibond
Well,
is an exterior
hold on, let's see.
material.
What do I have actually? I don't have a copy of what I had specified there. I just have this.
So
What
it's
did I
half-inch
specify?
thick MDO, which is MDO.
Yeah, it's a MDO, it's a MDO.
That's the overlay, it's a
Yep.
plywood material.
It's a plywood inner core. It's a laminated MDO. That makes it 1/2 inch thick. It's a lot durable than just regular Dibond or flat aluminum.
Dibond is a brand name, and that's an interior display product, so Dibond is not intended to be used outside.
Well, yeah, most people are using it outside now all the time. I install it.
That is my point.
Yeah, I don't like it myself. I don't ever use it, but I installed a lot of signs for other companies that use it all the time. But I'll be using the aluminum laminated material with the MDO core.
Mhm.
For the martial arts area and the concern around legibility. Actually, I think the visual image of the kind of yin-yang aspect is really what they might be going for. So it might be one consideration, because it sounds like we might not have a conclusion today. If that's the case, the red lettering on the outside of the logo, that might consider to go away and just keep it the black and white aspect. Could be one consideration to not have an issue with legibility.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dorschel?
Well, just kind of looking at the map, I suspect that this was the only place that was left for these two businesses to put in a landscape ground sign. So somehow or other, I suspect it's either in the right of way or there was some cross easement provision that would allow them to do so. Because there isn't any other place for a landscape ground sign for this business. So the location doesn't bother me too much, other than I'd like to have it'd be nice to have it clarified. I'm a little bit, I guess, more concerned about the booth 121 upcycled specialty store and all the different colors and letters and things that we have on that side than I am on the legacy martial arts. Partially, it would seem to me the martial arts is going to be a known destination anyway. It's not gonna be particularly drop-in arrangement. But those are my initial thoughts about the issue.
How would you solve the booth issue, but eliminate upcycled specialty store, or just keep booth 121? Or you'd like them all just to be the same color? Or
Well, I wonder if there's is there a particular reason why there are three different colors on that?
Yes, that is their logo and they also their name brand. And this sign is not very large. So just to be able to see their business cards or brochures, and then to be able to easily locate that and identify with their existing colors. And the other thing I want to add, that this sign do not light. It's not illuminated, so basically that was just going to disappear at night. So it's not like we're bringing a lot of light or glare to the sign.
Do either of these businesses have existing signs on the building?
No, they don't. Do not have any.
Booth 121 has a banner on it right now.
Yeah.
Pretty large one. Is that permitted, Sonia?
It's a temporary banner.
anything else, Mr. Dorschel?
No.
Ron?
The landscape plan is pretty weak, I have to say, just as far as what we can tell. I think those are pretty hardy, tried and true plants, but seeing it in a plan view to see how it lays out, and that would have been helpful. The legacy, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like the letters in legacy and Legos and Marshall and Arts are compressed at a different scale to try to fit them in there. I'm not going to redesign the sign, but there's work that needs to be done there.
Well,
they would want to work on it, I would think.
the problem here is that the sign is really small. If we had 10, 12 feet, then we could stretch it out. But this is basically what we could do, make it legible. Otherwise, it would be that small. So we're doing the best we can as far as visibility and readability, and try to keep the name. It's legible, but it's not a sign that's really going to stand out. It's just that when someone pull it in the parking lot, they'll be able to read it. But it's not really for down the street advertising where you can really see it. It's too small.
With the phrase upcycled specialty store versus the name, is that everybody okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I don't know what it means, and I don't believe anybody else will, but I guess that's none of our business.
Okay.
So I think with that second line, we have some letter height issues, or some potential, and so the amount of material to read on that top sign component might be reduced by having that on there. If that piece was eliminated, it might give more room for the booth 121. One concern for Legacy to help deal with the scrunch issue could be the logo emblem to be eliminated from the sign, which would allow better spacing for their name. Some considerations for the sign. I agree with Rob that I don't want to design the sign for them, and that's not my intent. But if we're looking for readability with two lines on the top placard, having that tagline aspect makes it challenging.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Sonia, am I correct in saying that 60 square feet is allowed?
Correct.
Well, though nobody wants to redesign the sign, everybody's talking about design and how over condensed it is, and booth 21 upcycled specialty store is packed into the space visually, and you are utilizing 84 times 40 equals divided by 144 equals was 23 square feet.
Well, you know,
So-
sorry to
so-
We
interrupt,
can close one door.
sorry to interrupt, but,
You can close that one.
Yeah, we can close that one.
sorry to interrupt, but if we have to enlarge the size, the sign by the width, then we can bring it out to another 2 feet. That would give it more width space.
Mhm.
Right now, it's at line new is set up similar to this, is 10 feet or more, as far as in width, but still the same height. The logo itself for the Legacy Martial Arts, we know that it's too small to really read with clarity. However, what we're looking for is just to have a symbol, because this is a national symbol. And usually when someone in martial arts, they drive by, they see that, they can automatically be able to grasp what it means, even though it's not a Legacy Martial Art. If you take that out and just say Legacy Martial Art, he basically has destroyed his logo or his whole business, because all their suits, everything that they have that particular logo on it. So you want to kind of reflect that. So I can make it smaller, and then with the width on the sign, we can bring it out a little further. The booth with, say, on the Cycle Specialty store, the owner can explain to you what that actually means.
I'm sensing that the commission feels that there's, maybe like to see this again, have a little more work done.
I think if they're working within 6 feet, picking up a horizontal foot and no height would aesthetically open the sign up to be
Yeah, it would help a lot.
nicer balanced.
So, Mr. Omberg,
I understand the booth 121 upcycled specialty, I can't read it. That's one of my comments. I think people. Yeah, I understand though why she wants to have it. And we have allowed in many instances, I don't know what booth 121 is. Well, I do because I saw a nice article, I think it was in Business or something on you. It was really nice. But having not seen that article, I'd have no clue what that was. And so for me, I think the booth 21 upcycled specialty store, did I get that right? I think it describes it, and we've done that. And we've been really careful on taglines. If it's medicine shop pharmacy, we don't want to say we sell drugs because that's redundancy and everybody knows a pharmacy sells drugs. But nobody knows what booth 21 is unless they've seen the article or been there and shopped. So I think it's fine to have it on there. I think, and I understand you're looking for that fun, colorful look, but you can see our issue. We're trying to put in signs, and one thing we have is safety. And somebody's slowing down and squinting like I am right now to try to read that. It's a safety issue. I'm going to seem corny, but it is. So to me, upcycled specialty store in black would make it very readable. Now, I might have to slow down when I turn in, but I kind of, when I'm driving by, I'm a commuter, I'm going to drive, I drive by that all the time, I'd say, oh, upcycled specialty, well, that might be something I want to check out. I understand the owner wanting to put that on there, and I'm okay with that. I agree that it's squashed a little bit, and, you know, I really defer to Dale on these signs. The biggest concern I have is if you think it'll be a permanent sign. It needs to be made out of materials where it's going to look good 2, 3, 4 years from now. We insist on that, and certainly the people who are paying for it will insist on that. So of all the things, that would be my biggest concern, and then certainly a reasonable landscape plan. We call them landscape ground signs because we require landscaping, and we normally have a plan that we can look at and say, yeah, this works and this does it, and right now we've got a picture. So
It was my understanding that the landlord had submitted a landscape plan some time ago.
did they?
The landscaping plan for a sign needs to be with the sign permit application, so
Well,
I can't speak to the sign permit application.
yeah, well, that was
So it probably is a landscape sign that shows this really well. And I think what's coming of all this is there's just some unanswered details, and we'd sure love it if we could just have it come back and try to address a couple of those concerns, have a landscape plan, talk about the materials. Again, it's not up to us to design the sign. We can react to what you present, but you've heard a lot of great concerns that I think actually make it a better sign, make it more readable for Legacy Martial Arts, and I think for you it'd make it a lot more readable to do it. I think when you look at that monitor, you can see what we're concerned about. In driving a car, you can't stare at it like we're staring at it. And it's probably a great logo on the business card and on the window of your shop, but sometimes you have to adjust just a little bit for. Okay.
Would you please give me some feedback on the landscape plan? You had mentioned that it was pretty weak the way it's done. What do you suggest for color or particular type of plants?
I'll just throw out a few. I think the spireas are fine. They're hardy. Chokeberry's a great plant. Some grasses. Daylilies are good. You can get them in a lot of different colors. And if you want to do something with evergreen.
Plan view as well. They can be presented in plan view,
Yeah.
so we know what.
So if you can put them on that black,
Sure.
Just show
Sure.
how you're going to plan tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, to be honest with you, these here daylilies and spirals, this particular information was just given to me on an email. So I just put this together.
Sure,
So
understood.
I had no intentions of actually doing a landscape plan because that's not what I do.
Let's
So
get started for materials.
That doesn't make sense. So I'll talk with the landlord and see if he can develop something, and I can give him my artwork, and then maybe we can design something to put together.
And if the landlord feels that there is landscaping that was planned for this when they did the
Can we redesign it where the sign is larger, in width?
You're allowed up to 60 square feet,
Okay,
5-foot maximum height.
okay. And
Mr. Robert?
What we will look at is the 15 feet off the curb can't be changed. And we would look at, we don't want to make it so wide so it goes right up to this curb line and it blocks cars' vision going around there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you have a certain space that you can fit it in. So even though you could be up to 12 feet long, I'm not sure 12 feet would fit in that space. And in the interim, I assume staff's just going to double check
well,
that we're in the right of way and we'll know where that line is. So I know we designed it for this, but it would be nice just to have a confirmation.
okay. Think we got
Commission
everything?
members, any further comments? Am I sensing we want to table this one too?
If everybody's done talking,
Is there movement to table?
move the table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Well, I do want to have one question, sorry,
Sure,
that
go ahead,
I didn't get a chance to get it out. Regarding the martial art logo, would that still be permitted, once it's kind of laid out, get more space in it? In the
I
sign?
think there was there was a statement made that, I think you made it, that people see that logo and they recognize instantly what either discipline is being taught there, so it's important to them to have it for that reason. So I think that the commission's probably comfortable with that.
Okay.
I think, but that doesn't mean that's gospel. It's just what I thought I heard. Okay. We shouldn't really talk about it after we've closed out, sir.
Okay.
All righty, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Move on to 6C, first review of draft City of Monona Comprehensive Plan 2016 to 2036. And plan adoption schedule. Sonia.
I don't know what's more exciting, that we're done with signs for tonight, or that we're done with the comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan.
So the intent for today's meeting was to do a couple of things. One, to discuss the process for plan adoption and make sure the commission is aware of the next steps. Two, to allow the opportunity for you guys all to ask questions and incorporate revisions into a final draft before it's presented in a more formal presentation during a public hearing. And to, if you would like, provide input on the format of the presentation or any particular areas that you would like highlighted to make sure that that information is incorporated for the public review. So I'll just quick overview the plan adoption process. The statute requires that the Plan Commission approve a resolution that approves the comprehensive plan, and then the City Council takes final action enacting an ordinance that would adopt the plan officially. So the other requirement in the statute is that there be a public comment period that runs for 30 days. So a Class 1 notice would be published in the newspaper at least 30 days before the public hearing, before the governing body. So the governing body here would be City Council, but we've added a second public hearing in the review schedule before the Plan Commission, because you are the body that drafted the plan, so that there will be 2 formal public hearings, one before the Plan Commission and one before City Council. So just to review that, tonight is the first review, less formal, incorporate some final revisions and ask questions. The next meeting, January 25th, is scheduled for a public hearing before the Plan Commission. It will be a more formal PowerPoint presentation summarizing the plan, and then there will be a 30-day comment period throughout February, with a public hearing and first read by City Council in March, followed by the second City Council reading and action on an ordinance.
So when is the first public hearing?
January.
Or the first council reading?
Right now it's tentatively scheduled for March 7th.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for all your hard work on this. I know you've put in a lot of time. I appreciate it. Just some comments that some of the, under the highlight section, the future land use maps, I think those are the new future land use maps, I think would be important for council members to digest. The sort of highlight the sustainability considerations that were put in would be important for council, and then the action plan I think would be valuable, not just for council but also for the citizens too. A lot of the stuff that's in there is data, but I think those are things that changed and would be useful to spend some time on those. Commission members, any other comments? Alder Holm?
Thank you.
I think your highlights are right on.
Comments on everything or comments on the highlights?
You have the floor.
So it could be anything?
Anything.
Okay, thanks. I just had a couple quick ones.
Can we change our mind about anything once you start talking?
You should let them qualify it. Introduction I-2, it's minor, but we have on about 60% of the way down on the bullet point says direct housing, commercial, office, research, and industrial investments. Everything else is like a zoning type, so instead of housing, I just think it should say direct residential, commercial, office, research, because housing, people sometimes think it's just houses. Page, and the issues and opportunities on page 1, so it's section 1.1. You have a statement in the very beginning. It says, recent data shows that this population decline is expected to continue. And then throughout the document, we talk about why it's not going to continue and we expect it to rise. So I think that's a misleading introductory statement. Even within the housing or the issues and opportunities, we talk about that we've seen trends, and because of the additional apartments and a lot of other things, we say we're actually, right in, I think in the next page, we talk about it's actually higher than what the forecast shows. So I think to say that they're expected to decline is expected to continue, I don't think is a true statement.
What would you change it to?
I would leave it to Sonia to rewrite it to say, although census data shows that it's expected to decline, we believe because of these factors, it will stabilize or even rise.
Right, that was the intention.
That would be more, yeah, but see, that's why I like reading the document from start to finish, is you read it with fresh eyes. And to me, I hit that statement, I went, and then I read a little further, went, So, you know, I was talking to myself a lot last night.
For the record, can you repeat what you did?
Thanks. Issues and opportunities, page 1-9. On 1.5.3, the second bullet point, this is issues and opportunities. We have some great facilities there, and we talk about them, but an issue with them is that they're also aging, and we're dealing with that right now. So I'm thinking somewhere maybe the second bullet point, we talk about, although we have all these tremendous features, they are aging, and it's an issue we're going to have to deal with. And I think that'd be very important in the issues and opportunities to just put a mention into it, because we talk about it later on in the document. 6C, look how fast this is going, 6-4. This is just for I understand what happened, but for me, it confused me, and I suspect it will confuse more people. We talk about our top employment bases and what they are, and I happen to be in construction, so I went, oh. No, I went, there's construction's not in any of the top employers, yet I go back to that chart 6.1, and construction is, I think, almost the second largest, above and beyond the average in the areas. And so I was just surprised by that, and I think reading it, and I had to really read through it to understand what this was. It's your, how far you are above or below 1 from the county averages. So I'm not sure, it seems like it confused me, but I'm easy to confuse. I just didn't know if anybody else felt the same thing when they read through there and looked at that chart. Because you actually grouped some together, Sonia. You took some of these, they're individual here, and you said, these together are such a percentage of Monona, and these together are a certain percentage, but then in this table, they're split out. And so it's like we're comparing a little bit of apples and oranges.
Okay.
So perhaps just another chart, I'm sure you have, and I know we don't need to overwhelm ourselves with charts, but another chart just showing that. And then the summary's good. It's just summarizing what you see in the chart, and I get that.
Okay.
But then it would have made it an easier read, I think. Economic Development 6-9. I put a note on the bottom. We're talking about the efforts and the programs, the people that are working on this and doing everything. We include the Monona Eastside Business Alliance, and we don't talk about Monona Grove Businessmen's Association. They've been around here much, much longer. There's a lot of, you could argue who does more, who will say that the Businessmen's Association still does an awful lot for our community, so if we include one, we should include the other.
Okay.
My opinion. You know, there could be dissent on that, but I think those people do a lot for our community, and then it helps for our economic development efforts and programs, which is what we're talking about. Okay, 7-4, the middle of goal 7.1, you call it Dane County Regional Plan Commission. I believe it's CARPC.
That's correct.
Okay, so we should change that to CARPC. 8-3. In the middle of the page, you say, in recent years, there's been a substantial increase in multifamily apartment use adding to the city's housing stock. This is a trend that is expected to continue. Isn't that what we're going to research right now to see if that's a trend we should continue? I mean, we're talking about, are we going to put our rental properties higher, a higher percentage rental properties in Monona than owner occupied, and I don't know the answer to it. I think it's a great thing that we have a group of students that are going to help us with that, don't we?
Yep.
So I think to having a 10-year plan to say this is a trend that's expected to continue when we're going to research it might be too strong of a statement.
So just end it, put a period in before that statement, before that.
I know you like to have a paragraph with more than one sentence, so I'm sure you could soften that somehow. You know, the continuance of this trend is something that is being researched or that the city's going to look at. You know, whether or not this is a proper trend for the city is something that's being researched currently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something so you have a second sentence. I know you want to address it, but
What's the name of the,
University Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you can mention that.
that one. 8-9. I gotta think there's a typo in here. When we look at the chart on the bottom, has commercial manufacturing really sunk by 100 million?
Yeah, I caught that too.
Or are those
I'll look at
reversed?
that.
They gotta be reversed, because up above you say the equalized real estate values for commercial properties have increased 40% from 03 to 13, but then in the chart it shows it decreasing by 100 million.
There's an error there somewhere.
Yeah, there's something that's not right there. And I believe it's increased. I know we've increased our commercial base, so, and I would tend to believe the 40%. The chart, I guess, might have an error on it. 8-12, goal 8.1, objective 8.1.2, encourage redevelopment projects that will have a positive impact on the city's tax base and character. One thing buildings, they increase the equalized value, but they don't have a positive effect on our city's tax base. The single-family homeowners, most of them end up sharing a larger tax burden because the apartments require more services generally than they pay in taxes. The one thing that we, same as every other community, is we work really hard to attract a commercial tax base. And the commercial tax base always pays much, much higher rates in than they ever take back out of the city. That's why everybody puts in tips. That's why we all do it. So it would seem to me if our objective is to encourage redevelopment projects that will have a positive impact on the city's tax base and character, it's a positive impact, not just rising it, then in the policies we should have something that talks about maintaining or increasing our commercial tax base, because that's one of the keys that will help making it more positive, the tax base.
I think that's just a much larger conversation, Chris. And I'm really not speaking to that line, other than that I kind of question specifying that. Boy, that commercial tax base has to be supported by citizens, and those citizens cannot move into Monona into single-family homes because we have no place to put them, and that takes us all back to the multifamily again. So you want to encourage commercial growth, which I agree with, but that commercial growth has got to be supported by population, and we can't add to our population unless we do multifamily, high-density multifamily. So we just got this vicious circle going on. So as it speaks to that line, I'm not sure about specifying that.
But I don't know if it's, I think when Mr. Homberg's talking about multifamily, he doesn't necessarily exclude ownership options.
No, and what I'm speaking to directly is objective 8.1.2, which says encourage redevelopment projects that will have a positive impact on the city's tax base. Well, there is nothing that has a more positive impact on our tax base than commercial. So it seems to me if we're going to have that as an objective, then one of the policies should be to try to encourage that, because that is the greatest dynamic impact on our tax base as far as lowering taxes for the residents. And that's what this particular objective speaks to. This isn't all the objectives in the whole, this is the objective of the positive tax impact.
Okay, whatever. I don't agree with that. I mean, okay, I understand, you put in a commercial property, the city has to do nothing for them, and they pay outrageous amount of taxes. I know, because I'm one of them.
Plus personal property taxes too, on top of it.
Right, no, I understand all that, but if we're bringing commercial in here to support those taxes, we need residents to support that commercial. And so I believe residential, and I believe high-density multifamily residential to support our tax base, because they're necessary to support the commercial properties that pay that high property tax. So I don't think you can have one versus the other, so I have a problem with specifying commercial as the best way to support, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize for that, but to support that line, all right? In other words, I believe one requires the other. So to specify one as the main item, I don't feel that that's wise.
Mr. Dorschel?
Well, the statement as it's in there doesn't refer to the commercial at all. It just refers to redevelopment that will encourage,
Correct.
Leave it at-
improve our situation.
Right, and I think it should stay that way as opposed to specifying one sector.
Well, could we make the general statement that including that particular type of development, including commercial? You know,
Well, what-
I mean, probably as a practical matter, we're not gonna add to our commercial land. What redevelopment there will be redevelopment of existing commercial land.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Goal 8.1 is to maintain economically, environmentally sustainable community. One of the objectives under it is objective 8.1.2, which is to encourage redevelopment projects that will have a positive impact. So as a part of that, then in all these policies that talk about that, there should be a mention of maintaining our commercial base. Because that is
But that's
part of
different.
that's part of what gives you a positive city tax.
Right, but that's my argument. It is just part of it, so why would we identify one part without identifying all
What
parts?
were the other ones on there? Can you put that back on there, Chris?
You know, while he's getting that up, I think,
Underneath policies on the right, there are
Encourage
You know,
sound development.
Chris, you had mentioned that multifamily puts a burden on the, but it depends upon what type of multifamily. If they don't have children, if it's, if the size of it doesn't cater to families, then you don't have the school burden. Multifamily new construction is sprinkled. There's very little need for additional fire service. Multifamily that's senior, we've had an experience where we've had a lot of calls for our paramedics, and it's actually increased because of that need. Trash service is something that's paid for by multifamily, so it's not a burden on our public works. And a lot of the internal streets and parking that they have, they pay for the parking. So it's multifamily can add to some costs, but it doesn't necessarily add to costs. And I think what Dale's getting at is if we're gonna highlight, let's not highlight one over the other. Let's just keep it as the goal to encourage projects that'll have a positive impact.
Yeah, I mean, that is what I'm saying. I'm uncomfortable just identifying, putting commercial development at the top of that list, as important as it is. I mean, there's no question that it's strong for the taxes, but in addition to things that you said, I still argue that, that single-family residential, which is almost impossible to do, then, so that takes us to higher density multifamily is as important to our tax base as commercial, because the commercial requires that population to support it. So it's either all or none, I guess.
Other commission members, other feedback? Rob or Brian?
What if we left the objective the way it is and added as a policy, maintain a strong commercial base?
That's what I was suggesting. That's what I was suggesting.
Not change the objective, which
Right.
talks in general.
I didn't do this so I could put up on the screen. That was for me for reminders. So that's notes. What I was suggesting is that one of those, whatever they are, 6 policies, there would be one that talks about maintaining the commercial base.
Well, to me, that's not a problem, because that doesn't say anything in terms of emphasizing it. I mean, it's one of a number of considerations.
Well, absolutely, but you are emphasizing it by that being the only one stated. You're putting an emphasis on commercial development over residential development just simply by stating it, unless you state both of them.
Rob?
Do you want to state both of them? Is that what you want to see? Because I agree with your
No,
point.
would
I mean,
just
they're
leave-
con-
I
they're
would just leave
connected.
it. I wouldn't state anything. I'd leave it the way it is. Encourage redevelopment projects that have a positive impact on the city's tax base and character. I would leave it general like that as opposed to referencing one, but if they had to be referenced, then I think they all need to be referenced. just don't know why we put an emphasis on one type of development over another.
Okay.
Especially in a city that is so challenged land-wise.
So what's the wish of the commission? What do we, right?
So one other piece is, this is seeing something removed out of the bigger context, which includes some of the future land use maps and some of the other pieces that influence how redevelopment projects will be seen, because I think there are certain areas where those components have more of an influence over the redevelopment than the subjective policy does. So I see it as fine the way it is, because the other pieces speak, I think, larger to this issue. This is more of a summary, collective area, and both of those pieces, I think, are well talked about in other areas about the relationship between commercial use and resident use. I'm fine the way it is.
Okay, we got fine the way it is. Griff?
I like the way the objective is stated. I guess I could go either way with putting in an additional policy in there related to if it did not suggest, I mean, maintaining a strong commercial base doesn't seem to me to necessarily give priority to the commercial development versus the other development. It's just a recognition of the importance of a commercial base. And if the objective is spoken in terms of general terms, redevelopment projects that will have a positive impact, I think that covers everything.
I don't know if maintaining the commercial base is a policy. Yeah, right. So we either add a new objective or,
No, I wouldn't add a new objective.
but
I
it's
would
not
add-
really a
if it's-
policy,
if-
is
You know,
it?
if it's
Or am I missing-
controversial, let's just leave it out.
All right,
We have lots of other meetings that we can bring this up at.
there you go. All right, let's continue, Mr. Umber. Good discussion.
I'll look forward to that.
My only other ones, and I apologize, I printed out colored maps. These are, there goes my clip, a little harder to see.
The gray area?
This is definitely.
The gray area.
But this little area, I don't, can you see, can you?
How many shades of gray?
Yeah. Okay, it's hard to see, but I had thought we talked about not putting multifamily up in Southern Circle.
Okay,
The existing land use is, like I said, I printed this, it's hard to see. The existing land use, if you can see, I can barely see it, I'm on it, is right in here, and it ends, and then on the future land use, actually added this up in here in the Southern Circle.
I recall that.
And we were gonna take that out.
I recall that conversation.
what I did was the future land use map used to have more orange, so I peeled back part of it, but wasn't sure how far you wanted it to go, so that's good.
This area, I thought, going into Southern Circle, and I'm not sure why that little tip was in there. This really doesn't front on any road. So I'm not sure about that, but we talked about, there's some awful nice homes right in there, coming up and into Southern Circle, and not changing the land use on them.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Humbert?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? All righty. Again, Sonia, thank you so much. We'll move to.
Oh, could I have one more comment?
You bet.
I think you've done an extraordinary job. Out, and it is so superior to the document we crafted 11 years ago. I'm incredibly impressed, and I think everybody should be very proud of what you've done, because
Well,
I know it's been primarily you, and you've done a great job.
You guys have all reviewed each element 2 or 3 times, so I do want to say thank you to all of you also.
Sonia, I'd like to add, and I think I speak for the entire commission, we apologize that you have to come to us with your work.
It's true. All right, we'll move on to reports of staff and commission members. Staff update, Sonia?
So the next meeting is January 25th, and the primary item on that agenda will be the more formal public hearing and review of the comprehensive plan with a presentation. We'll have some signs back as well. I did just want to update you again on the University Alliance. There were some people that weren't here last time. So when we reviewed during the budget season, the one housing project with the Plan Commission, that was just one component of this larger University Alliance. There are 4 projects. And so we'll be working on developing the courses that are paired with those 4 projects over the year. Will start in fall, so the UW campus semesters will include fall 2016 and spring 2017 with 12 to 15 different courses and 5 or 6 different departments paired across those 4 different projects. So we'll be getting into more detail so you can see if there are any interconnections on those other projects and how it relates to the housing piece of that. And sometime in the next month or 2, we'll have a draft scope of the housing project presented to the Plan Commission so that you can start to work on defining what you'd like the project outcomes to be. And we'll have a faculty member from the Urban and Regional Planning Department that focuses on housing issues come in and talk with the Plan Commission to help develop that scope further before it's presented to students to work on. That's the plan there.
Cool, thank you. Plan Commission request for information? Seeing none, move on to 8.
Move adjournment.
Is there a second?
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And before we leave, I want to apologize. My eye, I'm having a hard time focusing from the glare coming off of
I was gonna mention
somebody's finger over here, so congratulations.
Thank you. That happened in September, so you're a little slow on
I'm slow. I am slow.